So the way Krishna explains in the second chapter, just to refresh it for all of you. So Krishna says that we have a Sanatan Dharma. I don't know, do I have that slide somewhere? Is that? No, not this one. Yes. Okay. So he said we have a Sanatan Dharma and we have a Swadharma. So Swadharma is my eternal nature, and my Swadharma is to my body, and Sanatan Dharma is my eternal nature. However, what we get confused in multiple levels, we get these temporary designations: scientist, engineer, rich, poor. Then we have another layer of designations, which are social designation: Indian, American, Christian, this and that. Then comes another layer, which is even much more deeper. They're family roles, right? And then comes a layer where we are bodily roles. And then at the core is the principle of an Atma. So all these four layers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are our Swadharma according to this body. But the role of the Atma is the most important, which is Sanatan Dharma. That's what we are. So the problem comes when this Atma in the center forgets its Sanatan Dharma and start aligning with its Swadharma, its temporary social, family, and bodily designations. Right? That's the problem. That's where the problem happens. What we are trying to do with bhakti, as I think I had that slide last time, right? We looked at it. What we are trying to do with bhakti is, by chanting, hearing, reading, and service with humility, determination, and purpose. All these things are necessary. We go right from the beginning where we won't see any change in ourselves. A controlled mind, controlled senses, strong intelligence, and a soft heart. Eventually, which gives us direct face-to-face interaction with Krishna. This is all becomes crystal clear then. And then at the same time, our faith, determination, and taste keeps on increasing. So we are a doer, we initiate the doing activity, but then once it's initiated, then these are not under my control, right? But the soul starts to think that I am the whole soul doer. Not only am I initiating the activity, but I'm also controlling the outcome. That's where the problem begins. And deeper our ignorance, the deeper this illusion and this ego, which tells us that, no, I can make things happen by myself. And that ego becomes so thick sometimes that even though there is something very obvious in front of you, still we are not able to recognize it. So, and Krishna tries to help us, but the thickness of that ego layer is too much for Krishna's voice to penetrate, for the Paramatma to speak to us. So yeah, so I know this concept of doer can be a bit of a stretch and bit of a complicated, but understand it, right? That the soul thinking that he or she is it doesn't have a gender, but the soul thinking that he is the whole soul doer is a problem, right? However, thinking that he's not at all the doer and not taking responsibility when we are in a Vaidhi Bhakti stage is also a problem. We have to take responsibility of what our situation is. Why are we suffering? I have to ask this question, take responsibility. If I say, oh no, Krishna is the doer, I don't have to worry, I'll do, then we become, as Prabhupada tells us, sahajiyas, who think that bhakti is very easy. Prabhupada used to quote a lot about sahajiyas, how they would pretend to, boys and girls would intermingle, saying, oh yes, I'm a Krishna and they are gopis and we are enjoying. They just think that it becomes so easy that, oh yeah, that's all. So no, we don't become sahajiyas either. And neither do we become highly egotistical. So no, not going that. Doing our prescribed work as given in that golden box at the bottom, understanding that my eventual goal is to become a servant. I'm a servant of Krishna originally. And when I keep working on that with that thought process, and with that constant reiteration and understanding that who am I? What is my role in this world? Constantly repeating it to ourselves, we eventually are able to establish that fact in our heart. Okay, I think that's good enough for a background, hopefully. So let's get back to our reading. Yes, so we did the verse 18, which was Brahmane Gavi Hastini. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavi Hastini, Suni Chaiva Supakecha, Pandita Samadarshina. So yes, we had all these cow, elephant, dog, and dog eater, right? And we talked about how there is always two levels, right? We talked about that. Which are the two levels? Is we have a due like we uh, Vyavaharika and Paramarthika. I think we talked about that. Yes, we are a pure devotee looks at everybody the same way, but it doesn't mean that he also treats everybody the same way. No, it's not. Yeah, he sees them, but not treats them. Right? We talk of the animals, right? We don't necessarily think that the animals are same as us, and so there's some discrimination. But yeah, so it's Samadarshina, sameness, not oneness, not ekatva. We talked about that. Okay, so let's get on to the next verse. Let's see what's in 19th. Okay, so from 19th to 26th verse, Krishna is going to give the characteristics, the qualities of that person he is talked about in the 18th verse, the Pandita. Okay, and second. Pandita Samal. So what Krishna does in this, I just wanted to show you this. We'll go into the detailed reading, but just keep this in mind how Krishna is progressing. Okay. In 19 and 20, Krishna is going to talk about how of a Pandita, how does his knowledge transform? Okay. Then how do his pleasures transform from 21 to 24? Okay. And all these words in this lane is they are all coming from the text. I picked them up from the text as they are. And lastly, there's a transformation of character. So there are three levels, and it goes deeper every level, right? Knowledge, knowledge being in the mind, pleasure being in the heart, and character being the core. So that when that happens, we are completely changed as a person, right? And so Krishna, um, what a realized mind is, and then why such a person is steady, and so forth. So he'll keep walking us through these in this chapter, in this 19 to 26. So let's get back to our reading. Okay. You can't see my screen. Okay. 19. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Right? So this first characteristic Krishna is giving, sameness and equanimity. Right? So say sameness and equanimity. So uh, for the soul, as we have talked about, nothing matters for the soul, but it gets attached. And we talked about how bondage is caused by our own desires. So Krishna is saying that they have already conquered the condition of birth and death, because now for them there is no bondage. Right? They're free from bondage now. And we talked about uh, sameness, right? The word sameness is here, which was also in the last one, right? Uh, Samadarshina. So it's sameness, not oneness. We talked about that. So oneness, it implies that there is no difference at all, right? Whereas sameness, however, means equal vision, seeing beyond external distinctions while still recognizing individual existence. That's the meaning of sameness. So there is equality, seeing the same spiritual existence, essence pervading all the living beings, even while acknowledging their diversity. So that's what sameness means. I just want to highlight that because sometimes people get confused that sameness means, oh, we are all one then. There is no differentiation. No, that is not what sameness means. Sameness means that, yes, we see beyond external differences, but we also understand that there is an individual existence, you know, in all those living entities. So Krishna is saying mind is situated in sameness. So mind can no longer perceive dualities, material dualities. It transcends them. Right? And it's coming from the last verse, Pandita Samadarshina. Right? So he's seeing them equally. Right? So yeah, samya is used, not ekatva, as we talked about. So Krishna, and then one thing that here it is that they are flawless like Brahman and they're already situated in Brahman. So Krishna does not say that such souls become Brahman. He says they are situated in Brahman. Right? Samam Brahma, Tasmat Brahmani Te Sthita. They are established on the Brahman platform, not merged into it. It's once again the same perception of sameness. Right? And so they become they don't see, they're not attracted to anything, they're not repelled by anything. That's equanimity. They remain undisturbed by the dualities of matter. So that itself is the platform of liberation within this body. Right? So, so that's what is being talked about here. Yes, Sandeep.
Well, just one question. I thought Brahma in this particular case meant like Brahman realization, like not like Brahma. Because Samdarshana means like somebody's like situated so that they don't get affected by these dualities, right? So in other words, not being affected by dualities, being situated same as in the Brahman platform, not necessarily like devotee, but more like those people, right, who are doing the impersonalist kind of bhakti.
So I didn't get your question, bro. What's the question there? Can you please
So
rephrase that?
the word Brahma that is being used here, right?
Well, the word is Brahman, right? So
Brahman,
it
right?
could go
Brahman,
to
yeah.
flawless like Brahman.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
is it Brahman word means like somebody situated in the impersonalism kind of thing? Because some of the Rashina is like, they are actually above the dualities, right? So somebody who's
Mhm.
above the dualities is same as like the that platform, impersonalist platform, right? They're not necessarily bhakta at that time.
Yeah. So, to understand this, see, Brahman realization is also a part of Krishna consciousness. See, it's Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. They all are Krishna. It's just that how we perceive them, that's where the difference lies. So, Brahman realization is also a part of Krishna consciousness. Right? We say Brahmacharya, Brahman, Brahminical culture. So, it means to perceive Brahman and act on the platform of a Brahmana. Right? Obviously, the highest realization is Bhagavan. Right? So, for how can equal vision situate one in Brahman? So, for soul, nothing matters. Right? So, it's only the bondage caused by our own desires. And the Brahman word here, so he says, when he says situated in the Brahman, Prabhupada translate as a supreme. So here the word could mean Brahm Jyoti also, and it could also mean the Lord. It could mean either one of them here. And just to keep in mind that here Krishna has not yet bought the concept of bhakti here. So he's not just directly going to take Arjun from, all the without any giving him any details all the way to his Bhagavan form. He's going to slowly bring that in. So here it could mean either of those. Prabhupada is translating it as supreme, which covers all the three aspects: the Brahmajyoti, the Paramatma, and the Bhagavan feature. The bigger aspect to understand in here is that uh, the um, um, what was I saying? That yes, so that the person becomes within this body, that person becomes liberated. That's the important thing to keep in mind, right? So that's what here is being highlighted here, right? So that's what to keep in mind. And here again, they are flawless like Brahman. So when we talk of this first Brahman could mean anybody, like a person who has Brahmanical characteristics, right? A Brahmanical character. What are the qualities of a Brahman? Is that Titikshava, Karunika, Suhirda Sarvadehinam, Agyat, no. So like, yeah, so he's patient, he has no enemies in this world, and titikshava, he's patient, karunika, he's very compassionate towards others. So that could be the a person who's a Brahman. Those could be the qualities of a Brahman person. And situated in Brahman, here it could mean either the Brahma Jyoti, which is the impersonal level, or it could even mean Bhagavan. It could mean either one of them. As I said, Prabhupada is translating it as supreme, right? So that's the way to understand this aspect. Did that make sense, Prabhu? Was that any
Yeah, Prabhu.
clear?
Yeah, I just thought it was Brahma Jyoti, because like Krishna is gradually, it's like you said, right?
Yeah.
Gradually lifting Arjun from purely a material form to a
Hmm.
non-dualistic form. So
Yes,
here, what he's
that's
describing a non-dualistic, not necessarily
yes,
bhakti,
that's
but
a
more
good
like
way of
Brahma
putting it.
Jyoti. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I just want to tell the first Brahman can be is about like a person who has Brahmanical qualities. Okay, so that's the first Brahman that is being referred to here, and the second Brahman, yes, it could be Brahm Jyoti also. Means he's Krishna, is, as you rightly said, he's gradually taking Arjun to a level of the pure devotion, bhakti, Bhagavan perspective, right? And but the essence being that, as Prabhupada is saying, they are liberated. That those people are liberated even while being in this body. That's the way to understand that.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 19. Okay, so that was 19, and then this is where's my? Where did I close that slide? Sorry, let me share that also. Right, so we did 19, the sameness and equanimity. So is Krishna is this is showing the transformation of knowledge, how through that understanding then he sees everybody as same, and that's more on a mental platform, right? He's looking at everybody similarly, right? So let's go to 20, where we see another level of the transformation in knowledge. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, which is self intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. So, again, so this is the level of, again, a knowledge level. He's self intelligent, he's unbewildered, knows the science of God. So, these are symptoms of a realized mind. Okay. So, going back to purport, yeah. So, and you'll notice that many of these sound similar, but as I pointed out, there are different levels. It goes deeper and deeper, right? So, uh, so those people who have an impetus to use everything for Krishna, they are not uh, they are not very casual about how they interact with this material world, like the energies in the material world. They understand that this material world is a dangerous place. And at any time, our mind, like a wild animal, can get re-attracted to this material world. So yogis are very, very careful. That is why the first level that Krishna is explaining, transformation of the mind takes place. Because yogis are very, very careful. Because everything is connected to Krishna, and they're careful how they interact with these things. So a self-realized person, one who's fit for liberation, is one who takes the lesson behind material nature, including even the dire situation, and sees that an opportunity for purification coming from the Lord. That's why it's saying he rejoices upon achieving neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. So the person knows that this material world is a very tricky place. He doesn't focus his mind on that thing. Okay, oh, I got this. Is it good or is it bad? No, none of that sort. He's very, very careful how he interacts with this material nature, right? That's what Krishna is establishing here, right? And he's unbewildered. Unbewildered means that he's not bewildered means that he's not disturbed by any of those things. Sometimes something unpleasant might come, sometimes something pleasant might come, but he's not bewildered, he's not confused, he doesn't get disturbed from his level. And another important thing that Krishna is bringing here, who knows the science of God, right? That's an important aspect. So on a science of God means, as Krishna himself says, right? Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatpatah tyakta deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. Right? Saying that who knows my birth and karma. So that's the science of God. So that person who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence. Right? So yes, Pratyush.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, a wider question. If I look at everything what we have read so far, mostly till now, Krishna is telling about the person who is elevated. So for me, I'm since in a neophyte devotee stage. How should I, perceive this information? Shall I start pursuing to become one of them, or set it as an example, or like what should be my take on this? Because it's a very high goal for me to be like that. What Krishna is telling.
So yes, you can keep this as an example and as an aspiration for ourselves. That's a good thing. However, our aspirations can sometimes become so heavy on us that we might stop the process altogether. Okay. So keeping in mind that, yes, I want to be there, but I also keep in mind that Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, so, or you can say Guru and Bhagavan, they both are supporting us in this process. I'm not all by myself. Then this doesn't look like a huge thing because now I know that, okay, my Guru is there, Krishna is also helping me, and the devotees are there. So have it as an aspiration, good thing to have, but don't focus too much on it. Furthermore, don't get overburdened by it and lose your direction and practice. So yeah, that's the way to look at it. Krishna is not worried about somebody coming to this level. Frankly, he's not worried about that. Lord Ram, when the squirrel was throwing stones and when Hanuman was throwing mountains in the water to make that bridge, he told Hanuman that your effort and the squirrel's effort is same for me because you both are working according to your capacity. As long as we all are working best of our capacity and being truthful to ourselves, not being cheats, not being pretenders, then it's all okay for Krishna. He will give us all the knowledge we need to come to this level. I don't have to force it on myself. I don't have to chalk out a plan to be on this level. Not needed. But yes, you can keep it as an aspiration in your heart and mind. Hopefully that was helpful, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. And another question is, Prabhuji, like hearing this, I see I have so many other things which I need to leave. So leaving all of them all together, like, for example, uh, going for a trip with family, extended family on a long weekend to New York or Niagara Fall and so on. Like those family members are not part of devotional, so practicing devotees. So, sometimes we feel like we will go with them and somehow they will talk about other things which will eventually affect me, which I don't want to get affected because I am practicing. And my aspiration is to follow what all I have learned so far. So that kind of give little discomfort. How to come over that?
One thing we all have to understand, Prabhu, there is nothing separate from Krishna. Right? Rite yad pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano yatha. Let me show you that verse. There's a verse in the second canto, I think it's 2:936. Krishna is giving the Chatur Shloki Bhagavatam to Brahma, and one of them is Rite yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani. That whatever you see separate from me is illusion, is Maya. Everything, but if you bring me anywhere, then that is not Maya anymore. Right? So yes, you have an extended family. You have to do it. I was telling you all of you about the Swadharma and Sanatan Dharma. We all have duties to this body and the extension of this body. There is no way running out of it unless we are ready. We don't force it on ourselves. So if you go out with your let's say your extended family members, why are you seeing anything as non-Krishna? No, this is Krishna. This is not Krishna. Everything is Krishna. Right? So if you see it from that perspective, you could see your Extended family also as a service to Krishna. Okay, yes, I was born into this family, I have relatives, right? And then you see it as a service to Krishna, that, okay, yes, I have to do my swadharma. I cannot give it up because I'm not ready, but I'll do it. I'll try my best to do it in as much of Krishna consciousness as possible. Right? Yes, obviously, I'm not asking you to give up your principles, but the details can change. Okay, that's something. Like, for example, if we go out somewhere, let's say you went to Niagara Falls. Okay, we went to Niagara Falls last year. Was it not last year? It was 23, I think. We had some devotees who had come from San Diego to meet us, and so we all drove to Niagara Falls. And after that, there is a dosa place very close to Niagara Falls, actually walking distance. And we walked there, and we had dinner there, dosa. Obviously, it was a purely vegetarian place, and no meat, fish, or eggs being cooked there. And we also took things that didn't have onion, garlic. But then it was not as if that, okay, oh no, I'm not going to eat out. I'll only eat what has been cooked at home and offered to my deities. And yeah, don't be so strict on yourself. We can always change the details a bit here and there. And Krishna understands. He's the person. Okay, he understands what you're going through. So similarly, when you have some friends and they start talking to you about politics, like I tell you about myself, when somebody starts talking to me about politics, I act like the dumbest person in the world. I say I'm not interested in politics. Yeah, I get some news here and there, but so I'm not contributing anything. So after some time, they stop talking to me about that thing because they see, oh, he's not contributing because he doesn't follow politics. I don't try to show off to them as being a devotee that, oh, you all guys are in sin because you are reading the news every day, watching it, and I am not. No. So that's the way I handle it, Prabhu. I talk to my parents regularly, and they are in their 70s now. They have their own challenges, and I cannot change them. I don't even expect to change them. But I have to have some level of compassion towards them, even though they are not in bhakti, but they are related to this body that I have. I'm not sure if I confused you
Yeah.
further or made any
No,
sense, Prabhu.
thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very helpful.
Yeah. So don't
Because
be
so
very
far what
hard
we
on
have
yourself.
we have
Yeah.
read is a very high standard, like for me to follow up.
Yeah. Don't keep these high standards in your mind, because if you force these high standards on yourself, your heart will become very hard, Prabhu. Don't do that. Krishna does not want a hard heart. He wants a soft heart. Right? So if sometimes it happens, you're out with your family members and some things happen, Krishna always understands. He's very compassionate. Just imagine how much effort you all are putting in. You fast on Ekadashis, you go to temple regularly, you take care of your family, you have deities at home, you do arati, you're chanting regularly, following four regular. That is a big task. That's unbelievable. Krishna is so happy with all of you. Oh my God, these guys are so amazing. Imagine middle of the week, you all are sitting here and we're discussing Bhagavad Gita. And out of that, suddenly something minor happens, or you had to go out with a family member and they started talking about how bad the politics is nowadays and all that. And you said, it's okay. Yeah, do your best and just keep out. But yeah, if things become to a level where it starts affecting you emotionally and psychologically, then you have the full authority to move out of that situation, because your welfare is the most important thing. But till the extent you can extend, feel free to do it.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Yes, Satyal will even say.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, I also like I had my uncle over to at our house last year, and he was like, "Oh, you pray every time you make food," and it was just kind of funny that he was so hungry. He goes, "I'm hungry. I need food right now. I need food right now." I said, "Yeah, that's just give me 5 minutes." So just the fact that people don't understand sometimes. I offered food really fast, and then I gave him, and he was like, okay, I understand you need to give your Bhagwan food and then me. He comes first. And it was just funny that and they do understand, family members do understand, because we also have our things that we need to do. Sometimes you just have to have patience with people. and at the end of the day, he stayed with us a couple of days. He knew, okay, she's gonna take care of Bhagwan, then she's gonna give me my food, you know. So
Yeah.
and he was fine with it after the first time. It's just I said, just let me know a little bit early, so I can do what I need to do, and I can also take care of you at the same time. So Prabhuji and I, we did that the whole time he was with us, like 3-4 days. We offered food first and then gave it to him. And you just had to kind of work with everybody, like you said. You can't change them, but you just had to work around it.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
that's what happened to my mom too. So every time we had some guests over, because we have like a lot of we have some nice 6 to 7 families who speak the same language as me. So we invited them to our house, and they're not devotees, and they just eat stuff that Americans eat. And they were like, why are you offering this? Why are you? And my mom was like, yeah, just give me like 5 minutes. Sorry guys. And I'm like, oh my God.
Thank you for sharing that, Anshu. Yeah, no, Krishna is already very happy with all of us because we are in a human form, and on top of that, you all are practicing bhakti. He's just going wild about all of us. He's just waiting for all of us back home. So don't overburden yourself with all these. You can keep them as an aspiration, but don't overburden. You're already perfect at this moment, right? Krishna says that, not Krishna, in the Ishopanishad, right? It said, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. This world is already perfect. We are already perfect for the purpose we are meant to do. Yeah, if I try to misuse my purpose, then I might feel imperfections in me. But overall, I'm perfect for what Krishna wants me to do. Thank you very much for all your contributions, everyone. Okay, so yeah, so this is again, we talked about this is on the level of the where's that slide? On the mind. Okay, screen is still on top, mind 20th, and that's why it's called what was that? Sthira Buddhi, right? Buddhi is intelligence. Somebody can Buddhi's mind. So yeah, it's talking about on that level. Then moving from 21 to 24, Krishna is going to talk about how the pleasure of that person transforms. Right? That's something to keep in mind. Okay. And these are very important verses. Some of them Prabhupada used to repeat extensively. I think 22nd verse is the one that Prabhupada used to quote extensively. Okay. So this is 21. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Right. So this is an interesting one, that he's enjoying the pleasure within. Right. So this is 21. Enjoying the pleasure within, not attracted to material sense pleasures. So these are two qualities being discussed here. And where's this? Okay, this is it. Yeah. So yeah, so that's what is being talked about here. So how to be equipoised, right? Asakti. So this is asakta. Asakta means detached. So not attached. So right? Asakta is attached, and asakta is detached. So where does happiness come from? One who is not attached? It comes from within, Atma. Right? So that's it. So there are 4 steps. You will see this here. Not attracted to material sense pleasure, right? So detached from the external stimuli, first thing. Then always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. So that's the next level. So first is detached from external, seeking happiness within. And then concentrating on the Supreme, right? And then he enjoys unlimited happiness. So there are four things being discussed here. So to the extent we identify with the body, we are not spiritual. Okay. And as I was just telling you, all this happens gradually. Don't push yourself to be at this level. Right? But this could be a test of our spiritual growth. You could easily just sit down and see, okay, where am I right now with this? Am I detached enough from the external stimuli that they are not affecting me? I'm not asking you all to be zero, like zero external stimulations, but just controlled. Right? Am I able to control them? If yes, then very good. You are on one for you have kind of ticked off one of the levels that is being talked about in this. Then seeking happiness within. So when you just sit down to chant, many of you chant 16 rounds a day. When you sit down, obviously you're getting some happiness there. That's why you've been doing it for such a long time. So there is some inner happiness that you're getting out of it, even while we are hearing anything, right? So that's something. It's another level of being talked about, right? So one thing was Krishna saying? Sukham akshayam. There's this word here. So akshayam means unlimited. Sukham is happiness. So in this world, all sukha is shaya. Shaya means temporary. Akshayam is unlimited. So in this world, all sukha is temporary and diminishing. And as I think we briefly touched upon it, that how our body's capacity is limited, to enjoy is limited. Even when you indulge in sense gratification, you can only do it to a limited time. And when you keep repeating it, that little pressure, that sukha, it diminishes. That is why that is why we have so much variety in this world. Right? Because you first of all we found pleasure in one thing, and then you got bored of it, and then you want something of the next level. Right? 25, 30 years ago, people would have a black and white TV. Then came a color TV. Then came a touchscreen TV. And now there's a billion things you can do on a TV. You can have YouTube on it. You can have the internet on it. People can play games on it. So that's a constant gradation. Because the black and white TV, we got bored of it so quickly that we want it on the next level. So the sukha in this world is always temporary and it's diminishing. Right? Whereas sukha in bhakti is unlimited. That's what Krishna is telling. And even when people are indulging in sense gratification, a time comes when they stop. But it is not because they are satisfied. It is because their body's capacity to enjoy has been exhausted. Right? Your favorite dish, well, let's say you like to eat pizza. If I put one pizza in front of you, you might be able to eat it, the whole thing. If I put a second one, then you say, no, I cannot eat it anymore. So your happiness has either completely ceased or decreased because the body can no longer experience it. Right. So that's it. So that sukha is in bhakti is akshaya. It's unlimited. Right. So it's all on a body level. Right. So that's the nature of the material happiness. Whereas on contrast, the happiness mentioned here, it never diminishes. It never. That's what it's akshaya. It never diminishes. Yes, Sandeep.
Prabhu, so Krishna is Sachid Anand. Is our soul also Sachid Anand? Because in this shlok, it says absorbed in the self, not absorbed on the supreme, right? I mean, I know translation is supreme, but the shlok itself says self, right? So
yes, absorbed in the self, what it means is happiness within. So that's what it means. So when you have made a connection with Krishna, then that happiness is within you. As they say, right? The kingdom of God is within you. That what it means is that the Paramatma sitting in our heart, we have made a connection with him. And that's the next level. The first is Brahm Jyoti, then comes Paramatma, and then is Bhagavan. And by constant practice, we are no longer looking for happiness outside. We have found that happiness within us. Right? So yes, it's within. I'm not sure what was that question. Sorry, Prabhu. Yes.
So soul is not Satchidanand, Prabhuji, then in that case?
Soul is also Satchidanand. Yes. That's what it writes. So the Satchidanand, it's eternal, conscious, and blissful. But unfortunately, because I am outward focused, when I say I means the soul is outward focused, that I will get happiness from this body, from the external environment, then it becomes a problem. But the moment realizes that, no, I am Satchidanand, I don't need anything else or anybody else to be happy. So that's the level of being focused within. Because the discussion here is about a person, so he knows that now I'm a pure soul, I'm a soul that is blissful. So he doesn't have to look for happiness anywhere outside. It's within him. That's the way to understand this.
Yeah, Prabhuji, and just one thing, because it says focus on the supreme, but from the shloka standpoint, it sounds like focus on the self, which is the soul part of it, not the supreme yet. Because the person, whoever is in the situation, he is actually having Satchidanand realization because
Mhm.
he's focused on his self, not on the supreme yet. So
So,
this.
so concentrates on the supreme in the self, in the sense it could also mean Paramatma, right? That's where it is. It could mean Paramatma also. That's why it's Brahma Yoga. We're saying Sa Brahma Yoga Yuktatma, concentration on the Brahman, in Brahman. So it could mean Paramatma, it could mean Bhagwan, you can take it anywhere. The whole concept is that you have moved away from the focus on this bodily platform to a platform where we are connected with Krishna on whichever level it may be.
Okay,
That's why Prabhupada is using a very generic term, supreme. Yes.
That makes sense, Prabhuji. Yep. Basically, not material.
Yeah. Yes, not material. Yeah, that's it. Yes. Okay. Prabhupada, in the purport, he talks about sex pleasure and he highlights that how spiritual realization and sex pleasure don't go well together. And that says something because where's that? Prabhupada is highlighting that the highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. So Prabhupada is saying that if you're able to control that, then we can very steadily progress in bhakti. But if not, then it becomes hard, right? There are these invisible shackles of sex life, as Prabhupada, Maithunya Agara, it's called, right? So initially, what we do is we understand this intellectually, and over a time, then the tendency goes away because we are constantly practicing bhakti. Right? Then that's taken over by bhakti. Once in India, I think it was Surat, Prabhupada was taking his morning walk, and a lot of people who would see him, they would pay obeisances to him, even the people who didn't know him. Just by looking at him, they would pay obeisances to him, and his disciples were amazed by that. And they were thinking that, why are these people paying so much respect to Prabhupada? And Prabhupada understood that, and he told his disciples that it's because I don't have a sex desire. And a few minutes later, he stopped again and he said, I don't have time for sex desire. It's not that great personalities don't have such desires. They all have these desires. What makes them great is how they respond to such desires. Right. Right. So if Krishna is not against sex, once again, Krishna in the seventh chapter, what's that? I don't know, 8th or 10th verse it comes, right? That balam balvatam chaham kam raga dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bhartarshava. That according to dharma, sex life according to dharma, that's me. Krishna is saying that. So he's not against that. It's just against the misuse of that as a pleasure. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bhartarshava. That's the verse, right? And that's the verse this verse by Yamunacharya is giving, that how once one become engaged in the loving service of Krishna, then the desire of sex is completely gone. There's not at all that is there, right? Um, so by practice, it can be overcome. I don't know if you've heard this story, but when Mother Sita was abducted, and as you all know, Mother Sita was throwing her jewels as she was going so that Lord Ram could see where she's going. And then Lord Ram saw those ornaments, and then he asked Lakshman, do you recognize those ornaments? They were, what was it? Naham janami keure. Naham janami keure. I'm trying to remember that verse. It's a very beautiful verse. And Naham janami keure, na janami kundale. So kundal is earrings. So he says, I don't know my mother Sita's earrings, and and I think keure is, I think, a necklace or something. I don't know the exact meaning, but then he said, nupure tu abhi jananti. So nupure is feet. I'm sorry, the ankle bells, right? The one that ladies wear on their feet. So he said, I can identify those because I would never look at my mother Sita's face. I was always looking at her feet, right? So to get her blessings. So I can only recognize her feet, those ankle bells that she used to wear. Nupure, that's called nupure, Right? So the reason I'm giving you the example is that it's not just by mental, intellectual pursuit you can control our desires. We can also do it by physical activities. By, for example, physically distancing ourselves from things that distract us. It could be any desire. We're not talking specifically about any desire. No. There are a lot of apps you can get. Just a couple of days ago, I found an app which is called, what's called Niagara. I forgot the name of it. I downloaded it and then I removed it because I found it. But what it does is, right on your home screen, it has those apps which you want to see. It doesn't let you go into the whole phone and look for every app. So let's say you have just 5 apps, you have it on the top of screen, you can just click them and it opens. So it's just a way to distance yourself from all the other apps that distract you. That's just one of them. I think it's called a minimizer, I think. Niagara minimizer, something like that sort. But I removed it. It was a bit of a nuisance for me. But what I'm saying is you can find out physical ways by which you can distract yourself from things that are not conducive for our bhakti process. Okay, 22. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, so the wise man does not delight in them. So this is 22. Does not delight in sense pleasure. Okay? So again, this is now transformation of his pleasures. Which way is he focusing his pleasures now? Earlier was his knowledge on a mental level. Now it's on a pleasure level, which is deeper than the mental level. Right? So problem with the type of arrangements, as Krishna is saying, there is a beginning and there is an end to it. Because there is a beginning and end, we don't feel satisfied. And there is a reason for that, because our nature is different from material nature. We are not meant to enjoy, but we think that I'm supposed to enjoy. That's where the whole problem comes in. As I was saying, right? This world is perfect. I am perfectly equipped. This world is perfectly equipped for its purpose. Like, for example, if I ask you to write a book on your phone, it becomes a nightmare. You cannot do that. Yeah, you might be. I'm not saying no, but just imagine the problem or what a nightmare it will be. Because the phone is not meant to write a book on it. You write a book on a laptop. That's what you do. So, if I start using the phone to write a book, it's always going to be a miserable condition for me. Similarly, this world, if I misuse it for a purpose which is not meant to be used for, it will always create dissatisfaction for me. Because my nature is different from this material nature. So here, what we're talking about, samsparsha jab hoga. Right? So the verse is samsparsha jab hoga. This one, samsparsha jab. Right? So sparsha, as we all know, sparsha means to touch, which is material senses. Bhoga is to enjoy. Right? So enjoyment produced by contact of senses with sense objects. That's samsparshaja bhoga. Right? And that has a beginning and an end. Like how Prahlad Maharaj says in the 7th canto, it comes in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, verse number 30. Matirna Krishne parato satova mitho abhipadeta graha vrtanam adanta gobhir vishitam tamishram punha punas charvita charvananam. That we all are chewing the chewed. Like in India, if you go and you drink sugarcane juice, what does the guy do? He'll take a sugarcane or two, he'll put it through the machine. And you will think, oh yes, my juice is ready. No. He'll take it out, he'll fold it and again put it in the machine. And you'll say, okay, fine. But no, he'll go and fold it a third time. And then when he's done with that, like he's completely taken every single drop of juice out of it, he throws it away. But then what happens is dogs come and they start chewing on it because they still think there is some juice in that. So that's chewing the chewed. That's the situation in this material world. There is no juice here, but I keep chewing it thinking that I'll get some juice out of it. Right? So that's what is being talked here. Samsparshaja bhoga and dukkha yoneya. So the word yoneya, yoni as we all know, yoni means womb. Okay? So when we get engaged with this material world, what is born out of that union is dukkha. So that's why Krishna is using the word very expertly, yoni. That it's coming through the womb. A child is born, which is dukhi, is misery. He's going to give you misery. He's going to ask you the whole time, okay, now what do I give you misery for? Because you have voluntarily chosen to interact with this world. Right? And if you, I don't know if you all noticed this, but in this world, there is no actual pleasure. What we feel as pleasure is just that for some time, I'm not being tormented by material nature. For example, what do people do? They work very hard 5 days a week. And then to take break from that work, they go out for, let's say drinking and, the movies and whatever. Like if you see, there was a recent survey I read where people were saying, what do you do as a recreation? What do they do? First was watch a movie, sleep, go on vacation. What was the fourth one? Intoxication. I think these were the four. So if you see intoxication, sleep, movies, and vacation, what is the common theme in all of them? That you're trying to run away from what your situation is. That's what we all are trying to do there. So pleasure is just that for some time, I'm not being tormented in this world. That's all what pleasure means. Pleasure is not happiness. No. It's like that for some time I'm not suffering. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what pleasure is in this world. So
It's like Prabhuji just taking help of all the illusion around us, like for example, taking intoxication to feel like I'm happy. So which is not real happiness, and watching movie, which is again is not real. So finding ways to divert the mind and the material.
Yeah. And as I said, it's more than, it is diverting. And also it is just that I'm just trying to run away from the torment that I'm going through, the misery I'm going through for that time. That's what I'm trying to do in that minute. There's nothing else.
Like Sukhabhas.
Sukhabhas?
Like a, yeah. It's not Sukh, it says Sukhabhas.
Yeah. Abhas. Yeah, Abhas is just like a feeling. Yeah. Sukh is just a feeling. It's not there, but it's just a feeling. Yeah. So yeah, they all are trying to escape from this whatever is happening around them. So yeah, that's what this verse is teaching us. That there's nothing to enjoy here. If you all go to so my spiritual teacher, when he goes to Mayapur, and whenever you go to Mayapur, you can go and see the samadhi of his Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And when you enter that, just as you'll enter, on the right there is a building, but outside the building there is a board which says there is nothing to see here. What they're trying to tell you is that don't come into this building, there is nothing to see here. But it's a very good analogy for this world, that there's nothing to see here in this world. So Guru Maharaj, he always takes a picture there, and he goes just to show that there's nothing to see in this world. What are you doing here? What are you hanging out here for? So it's not a good place to be in. There is dukha yoni and ramate buddha. Buddha means an intelligent person, does not get entrapped in it. And then Prabhupada is quoting this verse from Rishabh Dev. Nayam deho de bhajanar loke kashan kamat arhate vid bhujami tapo divyam. So what Rishabh Dev is telling his sons, that don't go fall for pleasures that are already available to stool eaters, hogs and dogs. Go for penance in your life and live a life of transcendental bliss. That's what he's telling. So Prabhupada is quoting that. And this is an interesting statement, that more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he's entrapped by material miseries. So the more deeply we are attached to our desires, the more pain will we have when we'll be removed from it. And we will for sure be removed from it. In this world, everything is going to be lost. And it's all going to be taken away from us. That is not of value to us will be taken away. What is value will always remain with you. Whatever bhakti you do in this life will be carried on to the next life. Whatever is not of value to you, time is going to take that away from you. Yes, Pratyush.
Prabhuji, I have a doubt. Like, there is a slight difference between a person who is lazy, not want to do something, and person who who know these facts and try to navigate the world and find a fine balance between work and life or spiritual life. So, right. So for myself, I'm speaking of myself. So I discovered that I might be crossing certain items which I need to do and because of laziness and taking shelter of these concepts. So how to overcome that?
So, I'm trying to say, so are you saying that there is laziness and there is carelessness and there is detachment? Is that what you're referring to?
Right. Yeah. Carelessness. Right. That's
Yeah.
that's right.
So one thing to understand, first of all, we have to understand what these things are, right? So carelessness comes before action. Detachment is after action. So carelessness is being negligent, irresponsible, whereas detachment is to give up the fruits of work. That's what is, right? So you don't have to be careless, you have to be detached. So you have to go up on the other end. So yeah, so if you are lazy, in one sense, if you feel that you have been lazily giving up some things, you have to get this understanding that, okay, I have to do this activity, but you can find out what is it that is causing you to be careless in that. Is it that the fear of the outcome that is worrying you? That is why you don't want to work on it? Is it the amount of hard work that it takes for you to, that is why you don't want to work on it? What is it that is making you lazy? That's something you have to go to the core of it. If it is that you're just feeling that it's too big for you, you can break it down into small pieces. Make it the big activity into small parts. Right? So just see, okay, what is the next step I have to take? Don't worry about the final goal. That will probably help you get out of that lazy attitude which we has come from. If it is coming from the challenge that it's too big a thing for me to handle, right? If that laziness is coming because you're worried what the outcome is going to be, well, that we all can understand philosophically. It's not under my control. I can just try to do my best, and then I have to learn to leave it on Krishna. There again, you can do it step by step by realizing from your life that how whatever when I depend on Krishna, I'm easily able to execute things. So you can do that on a smaller level, and then eventually it will grow into a bigger level. So this what I'm pointing at is that detachment is like a muscle that you build in the gym. Initially, you might not be able to pick up 5 pounds, 10 pounds. That might be the only thing. But when you keep working on it, you will eventually be able to pick up 50 pounds, 100 pounds weights. So you have to start on a smaller level and build up on that activity, which you feel is something that you want to remove out of your life. That's one way of doing it, Prabhu, that I handle it. Surely there might be other things also.
Okay, Prabhu, thank you so much. Just that I wanted to clarify on this subject because I have read this philosophy that we should not work too much hard to set for the sense gratification. Sometimes I take it as I should not work hard at all, even though it
Yes,
is.
yeah. That's something you have to be careful, Kesh, Prabhu, because our mind does that with us. That mind is very tricky. So we have to learn to distinguish where am I actually becoming weak, whereas I'm actually being detached. That's something you have to be very, very carefully. You have to look at the situation and work on it. That requires some introspection and some observation there, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, like my definition is do everything possible in my hand, but don't focus on the effort or the uh, end result. So that's my definition of detachment. So for example, like I'm applying for a new job, right? So I'm gonna give like as many interviews possible. I'm gonna try as many certifications as possible, and but not worry about like if I get selected or not. So that is my definition, Prabhu.
Yeah, that's the good, Prabhu. Yes, that's a good definition to have, detached. Yeah, not worry about the outcome. Yeah.
Prabhuji, if we read the translation, the purport of text 22, it clearly says that, my dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the stool eaters. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified. So I think Prabhuji was mentioning this, that he read somewhere. So I think this is the quotation where he says that you don't have to work too much for sense gratification.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you for bringing that out. Yes, even Narad Muni in the first canto, 5th chapter, he points out that, taseva heto praeteta kovido na labhyate brahma mupriyata. Ta labhyate sukhvad anyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabhiram. So what he's saying is that what you are destined for in this world, you will get it. Happiness and miseries, they will come to you. So don't try to exert too much to get too much happiness, because if it's not defined for you, it will not be getting it. Yes, if you're earning 10,000 and you work very hard, yeah, you might start earning 12,000, 15,000, but you're never going to go from 10,000 to 100,000 or $1 million. Never, that's not going to happen, right? Because we have a set of karma that we have executed and that are defining our life right now. However, in bhakti, that can be unlimited, depending on the effort we put in. That is why, yes, Rishabh Des is asking us to undergo penances so that we can get that unlimited transcendental bliss. There is no limit to it. But in this material world, because of my karmic cycle, there's always limit to my happiness and distress, and it is going to come to me some way or the other. You all might have realized it at some point or the other, that even if you didn't work for it, some happiness comes by itself. You forgotten about some money, and then suddenly you see a check in the mailbox. Oh wow, I didn't think about it. So things that are meant for you, they'll come to you. Things that are not meant for you, no, they're not going to come. But bhakti is unlimited. If you put in effort in there, you can get unlimited. Okay, let's go on to 23.
Prabhuji, one more question, follow-up question. So Rishabh, they mentioned that not to work for sense pleasure, right? And another thing is working for performing certain prescribed duties. So there is a difference, right, Prabhu? But sometimes that also require overworking. And for example, Shivani is taking care of newborn, which is so much work,
Yes.
right? So there is a difference, right? That's different thing at all, right? So
that's
these are
different. And as I was saying in the beginning, you can Krishnaize everything. You can bring Krishna into everything. So now that newborn in your house, he's yes, you have played a role in bringing him into this world, but it's also coming through Krishna, right? It's Krishna's mercy. So when a mother takes care of a child, one aspect could be that the mother can take care of the child. Okay, this is my child. I am figuring it out, and this is my duty as a mother. That's your swadharma. But if you remove Krishna from the picture, then that becomes attachment. But when you keep Krishna in the picture, then that's a motherly nature. That's the highest kind of love in this world, we can see. So then that's the appropriate way of executing that activity. Then it's not necessarily sense pleasure, yes. But if you remove Krishna out of the picture, then it becomes sense pleasure. My son, my daughter, I taking care of them, I will make them somebody. No, yeah.
Thank you for clarification.
23. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Again, this is a transformation of pleasure. That's what we are saying here. And we have read this in the first verse of Nectar of Instruction. Vacho vegam, mansa krodh vegam, jibba vegam, udarupastha vegam. That's what Prabhupada is highlighting here. That we should do that. That should be done, right? So in the last one, as Arjun was, or sorry, as Krishna was saying that these material senses, that contact of material senses is a source of misery. So Arjun could potentially ask this question that, but Krishna, I know, okay, we know that sense pleasure is temporary and ends in misery, but this desire don't go away. They continue to persist. What should we do about that? That's what Krishna is answering here. What is it? Simple in that is tolerate, right? So merely knowing the right thing does not remove the wrong desire, right? So what is the solution, right? So and this verse I think is the one, right? So it's sukhinara. The word is sukhinara. Krishna is using that a person who's able to tolerate, he's happy in this world. He's a sukhinara. It's a very interesting word there. Sukhinara. Sounds like a Japanese word. Sukhinara. Right? So the secret of being happy as a human being is to notice, to have that intelligence, to notice these changes and to not react to them or to overreact to them. The word shaknoti means that you have some power to do this, right? The word shaknoti here is able. That's what it means, is able. So shaknoti means we have some power. There's some power there, right? So you have some power to do this, right? To notice these changes and not overreact to them, right? So iha eva, in this present body. Iha means right now, and right here in this body while you're living in there. So it means right now you are in this body, and if you develop some power, then you can tolerate shodham, right? And when you achieve that, you got a little bit of wiggle room, right? So then when that wiggle room comes, prak sharira vimokshanana. So what happens is that you get freed from it. Right? So prak sharira means prak means before, sharira means body. So prak sharira vimokshanat means before you release from this body. If there will be a time when we'll be, obviously we'll leave this body, but before that time, if we develop that power to tolerate, and what should we tolerate? That's Krishna is telling us. Kama and krodha. Kama krodod bhavam vegam. So kama is what's that purpose? Desire, and krodha is anger, right? So kama krodod bhavam vegam. So those are the two things that are we asked to tolerate. So shaknoti is that you develop power to tolerate. Before you are released from this body, you develop the strength to tolerate kam and krodh. And that strength comes from doing our bhakti process sincerely. Okay? So anger comes from desires to control, possess, or hold on to things. We get frustrated and angry when we can't control things. If you learn to tolerate, you get Shakti to become Sukhi Nara. Things are always going to be changing. Right? So how much can you accommodate? If you are narrow-minded and think that it has to be my way, right? Then it's very likely that we won't be able to tolerate that. Right? Right. So that's what Krishna is telling him here, that learn to tolerate. This is about an internal behavior, right? As I said, mental platform to internal, you're going internal there. Okay. 24. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward is actually the perfect mystic. He's liberated in the Supreme and ultimately he attains the Supreme, right? So this was, which verse is this? 24, right? Happiness is within, active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inwards. That's what is being talked about in here. So again, this is the on a pleasure level, that how does that pleasure change for that person? That's what Krishna is asking. So right, I've mentioned in the past dutiful and detached, right? So now indirectly Krishna is asking us, telling us about devotional part by becoming contemplative, how to work inwards. That's what Krishna is telling us. Right. So Prabhupada in here is saying, a liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. Right? So now what does factual experience mean? Prabhupada says that he can therefore sit silently at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. So the word factual means that he can actually experience it. I was reading a book today. It's a new book that we got. It's called In Essence. In that there is a question that Prabhupada answers, and he's telling that person in answer that, whatever I am speaking, Prabhupada is saying that whatever I am speaking, I am experiencing that. It's not like I'm just talking philosophy. That's the level of the factual experience that Prabhupada is referring to here. It's a fact. Krishna is a fact for Prabhupada. It's not as if that, oh yes, there is Krishna somewhere in a planet somewhere in this creation. Whatever. No, it's a factual experience. And that's the level of factual experience somebody gets. So now it's on the positive side, that relish spiritual pleasure from within. Right? 22 was negative side, right? We talked about dukkha, yona, and all that. Right? So you have to you have to save from that negative side and come to the positive side. So it is important for us as devotees to realize that it is not just, okay, all the time working. We also have to work on reviving our internal relationship with Lord as we continue to work. That has always have to be there. We were just talking about a mother and a child relationship. Yes, yeah, we can take care of the child, but we also have to understand what is my relationship with this child, right? What is my relationship with Lord and this child? So where does Krishna come into the picture? So that has to be constantly meditated upon. 26, this is 25. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Right? So now this is 25. Let's see where is that. 25 now, this is a transformation of character. So that person is beyond all doubts and he is working for the welfare of others. So now, till now, Krishna was telling, okay, you transform your mind, your pleasures change, but now that person who's at the level, now how does its character change? Means he's now thinking about others. That's the extent of transformation such a Sukhi Nara comes to. Right? So uh, you just don't live in that, oh yeah, I'm happy in this and I'm happy with it. No, you have to also come out and give it to others. Right? Working for the welfare of others. That's what it is. If something has helped us, we try to offer it to others also. But even then, even an expert surgeon has to keep himself educated, unagitated, non-distracted, right? And he should, while he's taking care of the parents. So he's offering his help to others, but he's also learning and educating himself. So take care of yourself also. We sometimes become so passionate about others that we forget we have to fortify ourselves also. You will not be able to help others if we have not taken the medicine and seen the effects ourselves. Right? So that's something there. So helping welfare of other living beings. So this brings out a good point here, because sometimes people say that, oh, you all people are just always chanting, you don't do anything for service of, like of the society. Right? So social service and devotional service, they both can overlap. Right? Prabhupada and even our previous acharyas, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he would say that Vaishnava should make arrangements for medicine, for clothing for poor people. It's not against the principle of bhakti to take care of bodily needs of people. What is against is giving bodily needs higher or more importance. There's this phrase in Hindi, Manav Seva, Madhav Seva, right? So they say that serving human beings is same as serving God. No, that is wrong. Right? We don't have to give up service to humanity to become for devotional service. They both can go hand in hand. We should not avoid charity in the name of bhakti. Charity is not opposed to bhakti. Right? It is only opposed when charity is replaced by bhakti. That comes the problem. Right? Prabhupada would feed people. Right? We have the biggest food relief program in India. I know that, the Food for Life program. Right? Some people don't give charity for temples and devotional, but they'll give charity for food relief. Right? And that's what Agyat Sukriti is. Then they develop appreciation for Krishna slowly, right? And so yeah, so Krishna is encouraging everyone, right? So that's why it says, is that Sarva Bhute? Yeah, okay, yeah. So Krishna is encouraging everyone here, right? So, and as we have been talking about here, the Supreme could mean Brahman or Paramatma, right? They might not have found the absolute yet, but they don't have doubts about that, that there is some realization in this practice. Yeah. Prabhupada is saying this, right? Person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Only if we are taking care of others and doing charity and not working on ourselves or not thinking about the spiritual aspect, then it's not helping to them. 26. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. So, where is that? So we have Kama Krodha has come again here. Kama Krodha Vimuktana, that has come again here. So Kama Krodha, it was talked about in the 3rd chapter also. And it's good that how, or it's interesting how Krishna is bringing Kam and Krodha together, both those words, right? Some people are able to cross over Kam, but then they fall because of Krodha, right? So if Kama is not purified after control, if it's only suppressed, there is a battle going on in our heart. It's not purified, it's only controlled, Kama, lust, right? So then that leads to hardening of our heart. So focus of devotee is not on myself, but it's on Krishna. I want to love and please Krishna. Desire to please Krishna takes over the desire to renounce or enjoy or anything. That becomes the most important thing. Right? If we have this desire to suppress our anger, then a time will come when our anger will erupt like a volcano. Right? Because we'll be so frustrated with the things happening around us. Right? So Vishwamitra, when first Menka came to disrupt his meditation, Indra had sent her, he got attracted to her. And then as the story goes, Shakuntala was born and she married Dushyant, sorry, not Dashrath. And then Bharat was born. And so, yeah, but then after doing all that, he realized, oh, I made a mistake. Then he again goes to meditate. And this time, Indra sends Rambha. But this time, he doesn't become Kama. He's got control over Kama. But this time, he falls by Krodha. He gets very angry on Rambha and he curses her to be a stone, I think, for 10,000 years or something. So that's a live example of how Kama, Krodha are problems. Some people are able to control Kama, but then Krodha comes into being, right? So Krishna is now slowly building us towards Bhakti Yoga. There are some generic spiritual practices being discussed here, right? All of them are just pointing to one thing, that this material world, entangled in material world, is the problem. Right. So that's that's the basis of it. Right? And this is a very interesting verse Prabhupada is highlighting here. This one, 4:22-39. Just try to worship in devotional service Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of the senses as effectively as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, uprooting the deep-grown desire for fruitive activities. Because Krishna, this whole world, the Maya is Krishna's energy. Daivi haisha gunamayi mam maya durattaye. Daivi, this Daivi haisha gunamayi. All these material nature is mine, Krishna says. Mam maya duratte. Mam eva ye prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. If you become my devotee, then you can overcome it because I'm the one controlling it. So when you offer your devotion to me, then I can easily remove it. But if you are just working very hard by yourself, then it's not going to work very well for you. So that's what this verse means here. Let's just do this. We have 3 minutes. I would want this is something nice here. The fish, and this is Prabhupada's purport for the 26th verse. The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. The eggs of the tortoise are laid on the land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. Similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly, by engagement in Krishna consciousness. Right? So these, first of all, to keep in mind is, the purpose of analogy is to give you a principle. They might not be perfect. Those analogies might not be perfect. Don't expect that. But if they are able to bring you to the principle and give you that essence of the principle very well, they are very good analogies. But just look at this, so fishes lay eggs in water, right? So the mother does not physically feed or touch the eggs constantly, but she keeps an eye on them. So by her constant glance, the eggs are protected and developed. So nourishment through sight. That's what is being talked about here. Darshan. That's if you translate it to bhakti, darshan. right? And then the tortoise, he lays his eggs on the, or she lays his eggs on the land and then goes back into the water. There's no physical proximity to the eggs. The tortoise remembers or meditates on the egg. That's a mental connection. So nourishment through meditation, smaran. Okay. So Krishna is teaching something very deep here. Physical distance is not a barrier in spiritual life, or Prabhupada is explaining that to us, right? So a devotee may be far from Vrindavan or the spiritual world, but by constant remembrance of Krishna, he is spiritually connected. So it's our consciousness that will determine connection, not physical proximity. To Bhagavan, to even your own Guru. If you're conscious of what your Guru wants, you're always close to your Guru. Prabhupada hardly met his Guru a few times, 5 or 6 times. I think that's the most. But then he, just by that connection, because he was connected in consciousness. That is why we chant to remember Krishna. We read to think of Krishna. We serve to stay connected to Krishna. Right? Even if you're at office, at home, at gym, wherever you may be. If your mind is connected, you are spiritually present with Krishna. Right? So fishes use eyes like darshan. Tortoise use mind like smaran. Devotees use heart like bhakti. Distance is irrelevant. Remembrance is everything. I'll take a pause. I won't go to the next. There are 3 more verses left in this chapter. We are at 8:30. I'm just seeing if there is any last minute points for anybody.
Probably sometimes I've seen some words, they could have like different meanings, right? Depending on so is it like Krishna is like appealing to different kind of audiences and that's why there are multiple meanings, or is just that depending on the context, I mean who is like translating it, it may be a different from a different angle, it could have a different meaning. Like if you're looking at from a bhakti standpoint, it could be different interpreted, and from impersonalism standpoint, it could have a different meaning. So for example, like this word abhita, right, in this particular shlok, one definition I had read is it means coming from different sides or all sides, that's one meaning. But in this particular case, it's also a translation which says in the near future. So uh and I see we have been discussing this, right, for so many chapters we have discussed, and a lot of times one particular word could have different meanings, depending on how you see it. So is there some kind of intention behind it by Krishna, or is just to like appeal to multiple audiences, or
Well, it's a Sanskrit. The language is such, Prabhu. It can have multiple meanings. The word Atma, right? Atma can word in Bhagavad Gita, the word Atma can represent mind. The Atma can represent the soul also. Right? For example, in 6th chapter, we read Atma eva Atmano Bandhur, Atma eva Ripur Atmana. There, the word Atma is used for mind. Right? But when you go to say 15 chapter 7 verse, Mama Ivamsho Jeev Loke Jeev Bhuta Sanatana. So Atma can also mean individual souls. So it's Sanskrit, the way Sanskrit, that is why we need the translation from a pure devotee who can tell us exactly what Krishna wants to give us. I cannot speculate on my own. I cannot figure it out by myself. That's a dangerous position to be in, as I see it personally, if I try to interpret by myself. So we just go with what Prabhupada has given us, and we'll be in a good safe space, Prabhu. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Hare Krishna.
thank you. You're welcome.